Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Listening Game Podcast. My name is Nolan, and this is our very first ever edition of the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. With me is my friend Tony.
Hello.
Hey, Tony. Thanks for hanging out with me today and doing this.
No problem.
Do you want to say a little bit about who you are and give a little bit of background info on your music nerdiness or anything like that?
Who am I? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. No, I don't know. I'm just a music nerd, I guess. I'm not a musician. I used to play drums, but that doesn't count. But I just, grew up listening to music from as far as I could remember back, playing my parents' albums and neighbors' albums and neighbors' friends, older brothers and sisters' albums. And,
kind of a lifelong music nerd, kind of like I am. And why don't you think you count as a musician?
It was never a serious thing. I mean, I played drums in a high school band and then again in college, and we never, I think between those two bands, we officially had 1.5 gigs for house parties.
Dude, I think that totally counts. I had a band once. We rehearsed for probably 6 months straight in this guy's basement, and we didn't even end up playing a whole show. We kept rehearsing and rehearsing, and then we booked a PG&E Christmas party, and like a month before the party was supposed to happen, our bass player vanished. He actually vanished. He cleaned out his apartment, left town, no forwarding address, nothing. So the keyboard player in that band had been in a previous cover band that knew lots and lots of material, and they were totally pro and ready to go. And we were kind of panicking, like, oh, shoot, what do we do? We need a bass player. And, we're still kind of getting some songs together for a show. They want like 4 hours of material for this thing. And his other band was kind of ready to go. So I played guitar on like 2 or 3 songs with them and then ran sound. And so like 25% of our band, and then the keyboard player played with them too. Right. And they all played together at this Christmas party. So I've played less than one show. You played 3 or 4 times as much as that band did. And so anyway, so about a month ago, you sent me, or I saw rather on your Facebook page, a thing called the 30-Day Song Challenge. And that looked like something just musically nerdy enough to pique my interest. The idea was you pick there's a different topic every day for 30 days. Like pick your favorite song with a drum solo, or pick the best instrumental, or things like that. And you post each one to the web and give a little bit of a reason as to why you picked it. And I saw you start to do that, and that piqued my interest. And so I thought, well, I'll do that too. And we did. And coincidentally, right around the time that was finishing up, I thought, hey, I should add a podcast to the website. That would be a good extra category of info to have up here, or just other, that'd be a good, I don't know, something else stupid to have on the website that might interest people. So here we are. We're going to give this a shot.
Sounds like a perfect topic to start with. Cool. And a quick shout out to Sandra, our mutual friend, she posted the 30-day music challenge first, like the day before I did. I saw it on hers. So I actually stole it from her. I guess they actually have a Facebook page. I never went to it. She just copied and pasted all the each day's challenge and messaged them to me. Oh,
okay. I meant to ask you where you found this one at.
I've heard rumors there's an actual Facebook page, but I don't know. I just got them from Sandra.
Okay, I've never seen that one either. I'll have to look for that. Although I probably shouldn't. I think this one occupied more of my time than I should have given.
Yeah. And it's funny is if I did it again starting today, I would have completely different answers.
Oh, me too. That's half the fun of doing those challenges when you have such a broad collection of music. It's like, oh wow, what song do I pick for best instrumental? It's like, oh my gosh, that alone, just even thinking about it for just 2 minutes before filling in my answer, I would think of 20 or 30 different possibilities for what might be the best answer on that.
I would think of at least 3 or 4, 5 minutes after actually posting that day's challenge and go, oh, I should have done this one.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd see your answer, like while I was getting ready to go do something. I'm like, oh, that's right, I've got to do the challenge today. And I would deliberately not pick the same band or song that I'd seen from you earlier in the day. I'm like, okay, I got to do something else different. But
good thing I posted early.
Yeah. Sometimes your reasoning though as to why you picked certain songs would pique my interest. Like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I really should go with something kind of outside of the box or not expected for this challenge, and that would kind of get my gears turning. And caused me to think about the challenge in maybe a different way than I had been before.
Cool.
Okay, so why don't we get to this? So day one of the challenge was pick a song with a color in the title. Tony, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. I went with the first thing that popped into my head. It's a great song, Purple Rain by Prince, 1984.
Excellent song.
Excellent. Grammy winning and Oscar winning. It won the Grammy for Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group, and it won an Oscar for Best Original Song Score. So it's a multi-talented song.
Wow. I've seen several people have debates on the web over which album is better, Purple Rain or Michael Jackson's Thriller. Those are the two that I see that come up head-to-head a lot in different threads on the internet.
Interesting, but why do we have to pick? I don't know.
That's true.
But really, that's my second favorite Prince album. Sign of the Times, far and away, I think is his best album for me. And I did not pick a single song off it for this challenge, but oh well.
Yeah, I did. I threw a personal rule into the challenge as well, to where I would not use the same artist for any two of the days, because I could have gone with David Bowie for like 10 of these just, by himself.
I tried really hard for that, but I think, and we'll find out as we go through this again, I think I might have accidentally had two U2 songs, but I tried to not duplicate as well.
Gotcha. So I went with David Bowie for my song with the color in the title. I chose Black Tie, White Noise, a duet he did with Al B. Sure. Yes, that guy from the late 80s put out a really, really good R&B record in, I think, 88 or so. And then kind of lessened his spotlight, if you will, I guess, or what kind of... I don't think he stopped making music after that, because he did the Bowie record in like 93 or 94.
What album was that off of?
That's on Black Tie, White Noise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
album.
Okay.
But I was torn on this one between, do I do back David Bowie here and just start it off with him on day one, or the other one I thought about for this was Green Tinted 60s Mind by Mr. Big, which is another song, not necessarily my favorite song, but it's just one of those underrated tracks, because when people think of Mr. Big, they often think of To Be With You as like the big hit that they had, and as a guitar player, the opening lick on Green Tinted 60s Mind is much more interesting to me, and I've always thought, oh my gosh, that's such a fun little passage to play. And so
I wonder if you'll maybe pick that for the most underrated song. We'll have to wait and see.
Dun dun dun. Okay, day two was a favorite cover song.
Well, speaking of Bowie, this is a cover of a Bowie song, Bauhaus's version of Ziggy Stardust.
That's right.
Love that cover. It's just a great song, great version of that song.
That was so Bauhaus's cover of Ziggy Stardust, I think, was my first introduction to Bauhaus. Was a guy I worked with at the time, Don, he was big into the goth scene, and he had I remember we went to his house one day after work to hang out, and he had a bass guitar, and he showed me how to play a bunch of songs by The Cure on bass, and he had this stack of probably 50 or 60 Cure bootlegs sitting there on different cassettes he had traded with people over the years. And this is The Cure in Italy and in Spain and wherever. And
sweet.
And he started rattling off all these goth bands that I had not heard of at the time. He knew things that were a little more obscure and a little more on the industrial side, like By God 20 and Opus 3. And he mentioned Bauhaus. I'm like, Bauhaus, what is that? And I was like, you like Bowie? Here, check this out. And I think that's when I first heard their cover of Ziggy Stardust, and I was hooked. And that's when I figured out the connection of like, that's Peter Murphy's other band. Okay. And I'd known of him, and I'd known of Love and Rockets.
Peter Murphy's other band.
Well, I knew Peter Murphy first.
Yeah.
And I knew Love and Rockets, but I didn't know they were from Bauhaus until after I'd heard Love and Rockets from Peter Murphy for a long time.
Right. So got it.
That's what I mean by his other.
Yeah, no, it was just funny the way it was phrased.
There you go. What did I pick for this? So I picked for my favorite cover song, day two. I picked Material Issues' version of Ballroom Blitz, which I believe was originally recorded by Sweet.
Yes.
Back in the 70s.
Loved the Sweet version. I haven't heard that cover version. I'll have to.
So this one, I don't think they ever recorded a studio version of it. Material Issue, or rather, I think their record label put out a greatest hits album after they had kind of run their course. And this was like a live track that was stuck on the end of the greatest hits record. Them playing one of their, a show on tour somewhere, and it's really, really good. It shows how good of a frontman Jim Ellison was when he was firing on all cylinders, and just how fun it was. And I know this song has been covered by just a zillion people. There's the version in Wayne's World, and the Surf Punks have a version of it too, and I think Crocus did one, and just everybody's covered it. But I just really, really like the energy in this live version of the Material Issue version of the song. So they also do a really good cover of The Boxer by Paul Simon on one of those, not a real album, but it was one of those promos that they send out to like radio stations and things when there's a record coming up. They had like the 2 singles and then a couple unreleased tracks on it. And for some reason that has a cover of The Boxer by Material Issue on it as well. And I thought that was a cool, that was my other, was my alternate for this one. Like, oh, what else should I go with? Ballroom Blitz? Should I go with The Boxer? And like, I'll go with Ballroom Blitz. That's a good song. And
on the 12-inch version, the 4-track version that had the Ziggy Stardust on it from Bauhaus, they actually had a Velvet Underground cover on there as well.
Oh, really?
I'm Waiting for the Man was on that same record. So
that's on the 4-song sampler thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a coverific little 12-inch.
Nice. I will have to check that out. Day 3 was The Oldest Song You Love.
Okay, this one I did actually steal from Sandra, just because it's just one of my favorite like Christmassy songs, even though it wasn't originally a Christmas song. But Greensleeves, particularly the Vince Guaraldi trio version that was on the Charlie Brown Christmas show.
Okay, now I know the song you're talking about. Yeah.
It was it was on the TV special. It wasn't on the original soundtrack for that special though. The 1965 soundtrack album did not include that song. It wasn't until the re-release on CD in '86 that they tacked that on, which was weird because it's such an iconic song when you watch the show. I've
seen that before in other movies, and I think it has to do with just whoever owns the rights to publish the song didn't sign a contract in time, or they did not want to sign it at that point in time, and then they do later on. If you watch the movie Mask, I think it's the differences are in the VHS copy and the DVD copy. I think are the differences. They pulled out certain songs in the back of a few scenes and replaced them with other material from some of the.
Yeah, this one would be interesting because I don't know who, if anybody even owns the rights. I mean, it's a song from 1580, so I don't even know if there are any rights to it. And Vince Guaraldi did the entire soundtrack, so who knows what the reasoning was.
Right. I thought about going some not quite as old as Greensleeves, but I thought about trying to come up with maybe an older classical song that I love, or I know there's a few things like the Glenn Miller Orchestra and such like that I could have used as well. And I don't remember why I didn't pick those. I think it was more, I thought, well, I'm going with basically pop songs for everything. I'll go with more of a pop song thing. And so the song I picked for my oldest song I love is Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite by the Beatles. And there are older Beatles songs, obviously, but that was the first one that really kind of struck a chord with me and thought, wow, this is not just a typical pop song. It's got a different quality to it. It's about this big circus, ordeal. It's not just yet another, hey baby, I want to hold your hand kind of song like they were known for doing for the longest time. And it was inspired by a poster, I think, that John saw somewhere that was actually advertising a circus type show coming to town where there was a guy named Mr. Kite and there were all these different performers and things. And they sell reprints of that poster now. You can buy them online somewhere. Yeah, I just saw one. I just saw the ad for it maybe a month ago, probably when I was looking up info for this challenge. And they have these really nice color posters now for that challenge. I'm going to have to find one.
Sweet.
And, maybe frame that and hang it here in the house somewhere. Okay, so day 4, newest song you love. So we'll go from oldest to newest.
Okay, newest song. It's actually not officially released yet. It's out in the interwebs, but the album comes out April 15th. It's the song Milwaukee by The Both. The Both is a collaboration between Amy Mann and Ted Leo, two of my favorite artists. I love both of them, and they've got a whole album coming out. So yeah, it's a great song. If you haven't heard it, definitely look it up. It's like a really good, you can hear, Ted Leo in there, definitely with the guitars and then with Amy's, vocals. It's just like a perfect melding of their two styles.
That's cool. So. I had the last thing I guess heard or read rather from Ted Leo was an article I believe he posted maybe 6 months ago or a year ago about how it was just getting harder and harder to make a living making music, and how he was going to not tour anymore because he just could not afford. He literally could not afford to be out on the road anymore. He's like, I've got to find something else that pays better. This is just getting really, really challenging.
Right.
I can't even feed myself. Sorry guys, I just can't do it anymore. And those were not the exact words he'd used, but it was something to the effect of, yeah, it's really, really tough right now for an indie musician. And so I'm glad. I did not know he was doing something with Amy Mann. She's had, of course, the exact opposite result of being an indie musician, where she had, she kind of had, I guess, for lack of a better way to phrase it, she got really, really lucky with her songs on that movie soundtrack. Was it Magnolia?
Magnolia,
yeah.
Right.
She got lucky with that, and that just boosted her popularity, even when she was still an indie artist. And
was she like the album? So not counting the soundtrack, because there's a lot of crossover between what's on the soundtrack and then her actual album, which was Bachelor Number 2. Right before Bachelor Number 2 came out, she just walked away. She walked away from the record companies. Like, she had no label, no nothing. She started her own everything. Like, she did all of her like press, like just getting the word out. Everything for Bachelor Number 2 was DIY. It was completely on her own, and it ended up being huge and nominated for a Grammy and all this stuff. And Magnolia definitely helped it. That the actual movie was written around the music.
Okay.
I didn't know if you knew that.
Right. I remember, now that you say that, I remember hearing it before. I don't think I ever actually saw the movie.
I like it. I mean, it's an acquired taste, I think. It's a little weird. But I liked it, and I really like how well the music fits in with what's going on in the movie. So, I don't know. You should check it out.
So for newest song I love, I went with Say Something by A Great Big World. It's that one. It's, I guess, one of the pop hits on the radio right now. The guy that plays piano on it kind of reminds me of, who's the author that wrote Freakonomics?
Oh,
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like Malcolm Gladwell to me. And so anyway, I heard that song somewhere, and that's one of those tracks. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, if I'm paying very close attention to the lyrics in this song and just the arrangement of it as I'm sitting there listening to it, I will start to weep like a 9-year-old little girl. It's just such a really moving, intense song. It's one of those songs where the lyricist just got it right, when it's about the epitome of just the worst possible breakup and feeling the absolute lowest when you're actually dumping the person or getting dumped by them. And it just really, really grabs me and grabs, I think it's got just a really well done overall quality to it. It's a really great pop song. So
awesome.
I went that one. Number 5, a favorite slow song.
Man, I for the life of me just couldn't think of a really good slow song that I like. I mean, there's too many. I couldn't really pick one. So I thought of like the earliest one I could think of. My neighbor's dad just had, I think he had like 5 albums in his collection. That was it. And so he played those same albums over and over and over. And one of them was The Best of Bread. So
okay.
The song Everything I Own from Bread. It's actually a really good, cheesy 70s slow.
Well, you said it's by Bread, so cheesy and 70s and slow are all kind of implied.
Absolutely. But it's a good song. It's actually, I like the song.
Nice.
I mean, I could have used that same song for like Guilty Pleasure song or whatever.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd throw it in here.
Gotcha. Yeah. In all fairness, I know I have a couple of Bread 45s in the record collection, and I think I actually have David Gates, the singer's solo 7-inch. So I didn't realize I threw a little jab in there, but I got to dime myself out for that too.
Nice.
Okay, so for my favorite slow song, I actually picked one of my all-time favorite songs, "Somebody" by Depeche Mode. Just it's a piano and vocal ballad they put out in, I think, 1985 or so. It's on, gosh, at this point, it's on several of their singles collections that came out, and it's also on the album "Some Great Reward," I believe is the right record title. And it's just a great song. It's just piano and vocals. Martin sings it, so it's not even David, the main guy, singing the song. There's no chorus. It's a verse and then another verse and a little 2 or 3 extra lines of lyrics on the end, and that's it.
They played that at Shoreline, didn't they? Because I remember Martin doing a song.
He did a few songs.
Just on piano.
Yeah, he did. So when we saw them back in September at Shoreline, they do... in the middle of the show, Martin played 2 or 3 by himself.
Yeah, was that one of them? I don't remember.
I don't remember him if he did that one or not. They were rotating a few in and out. I know they did But Not Tonight on that tour a lot, and Martin would sing that, and they did one other one in the middle there. I feel like it was a newer song, though, like The Child Inside, maybe.
Okay.
And then I think...
it was too long ago. I can't
I've actually got the set list in a bag over there, because I was lucky enough for that show to end up with front row center stage tickets. And
yeah. We could actually see you from where we were sitting.
Oh, I've gone through like all the YouTube videos and looked for footage of myself and like found little pictures. I found like stills of me on some of the photos on DepecheMode.com from that show, and like I can find like, oh, there's me in the crowd and there's me from that show. But of course, all the other times, because I saw them 6 times on that tour, all the others I'm hidden somewhere. And that was the night that I had ridiculously good seats, though. Best show of my life. But that's another podcast. We'll do top 5 live shows.
Oh yeah, that'll be a good
time.
one.
Yeah, well, that'll be good. Okay, so where are we at? Day 6 was a song by someone you wanted to marry as a kid.
Yeah, so as a kid, when I was a kid, Blondie was real popular, and Debbie Harry was just, the bee's knees. She was hot, super hot. So yeah, so I picked Heart of Glass. I don't know, I could have picked just about any Blondie song, but thought I'd go a little disco, and throw Heart of Glass in there. It's a good song. They kind of popularized the rock disco song. So
yeah, they're not really a disco band either. They're just another one of those bands that were known for another genre, and I dipped into just, we'll put a little bit of a disco flavor on a couple of our songs just as part of their career. But
yeah, it was a little controversial because that was the time, especially in New York, where there was the big, rock versus disco thing. And where was it? Was it Shea Stadium? One of those around there where they had the disco record burning night, and they had the big pile of disco records that they burned and all that stuff. So there was like tension in the air and all this. And Blondie actually at a live performance in New York City, not only did they have Heart of Glass, but they did a cover of Donna Summer's I Feel Love.
Oh really?
Yeah. Okay. And they did that live, and I don't know, it maybe kind of legitimized it a little bit, that people are going, well, okay, maybe there's some disco isn't that bad,
right. So I'm one of the few people that likes some of the, I guess, disco songs that were made by non-disco bands. Mm-hmm. The other example that comes up in conversation a lot is Kiss, the Dynasty album.
I Was Made for Loving You.
And it's on, you know what? I stand firmly behind Dynasty. I will play that record back and forth. I love it. It's got a cover of a Rolling Stones song on it too. 2000 Man is on there. Mm-hmm. And that's the first version of that song that I learned, and was the Kiss version. And, I stand firmly behind I Was Made for Loving You. I thought, this is a decent song. It's not really that disco, I don't think, compared to some of the other just kind of upbeat, poppier Kiss stuff that's out. Yeah. Like, it's not that far out of left field for them. I mean, come on, they released Beth, and that's just a piano ballad too. Like,
right.
I Was Made for Loving You could fit right between that and any of the other more poppy or rock songs that Kiss does.
Yeah, I like Dynasty. I didn't ever apologize for it. Yeah.
All right, so for my song by someone I wanted to marry as a kid, I never really had a female rock star crush growing up. I thought about this one all day long and could not come up with anyone that that fit that mold for me. And I thought, like, well, what posters did I have on my walls when I was a kid? Did I have maybe a poster of Joan Jett or something? Like, no, I liked Joan Jett's music, but I was never like fawning over her as like, oh God, she's so hot, I want to date her or anything when I was growing up. That never really happened. However,
Susie Quattro? No,
Susie Quattro. Although I think that record's in the vinyl in the other room too. We'll have to do like top 5 embarrassing vinyl records or something. Although that could take years to put together as well.
Yeah.
So I never had like a long-term, like I definitely need to marry this person kind of crush, but I've had a lifelong crush on Terry Nunn from Berlin. So I went with Berlin, the Metro for the song.
Nice.
Just
she's still smoking hot.
Oh yeah, she has not aged. I saw Berlin live last summer in Napa with Big Country.
I saw them last summer at Thunder Valley or wherever. Okay, one of those casinos.
Yeah. So this was like the day before or after that show. I think it was like on the same tour.
Yeah, she's still got the pipes too.
Oh yeah, they sounded great. She was an amazing front woman for the band. You know, knew how to interact with people. She came out and like walked around in between the aisles and would dance with everybody. And
nice.
Yeah, she looks like she's 20-3. Has not aged. They sounded really, really good. And the Metro has just always been one of my favorite Berlin songs too. It's on their amazing first album, Pleasure Victim. I've been in a couple of bands that have covered this. There's a great cover version of it by the Alkaline Trio on their B-sides collection called Remains. And I'd always wanted to do a big kind of punk guitar cover of the Metro. I thought, I kind of hear this version of it in my head. It could be cranked up a little bit, have a little more Green Day-esque guitar in it. And then I heard the Alkaline Trio's version of it like 2 years after I had that idea and went, oh, they beat me to it. And they already have it. All right. So number 7 was a song you hate.
Yeah. So as I posted on Facebook when I put this on there, I could have really chosen anything from Nickelback or Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, but that's taking the easy way out.
Yeah, I know. And well, there's both Nickelback and Miley Cyrus will end up making an appearance in this podcast, but I won't spoil it beyond that. So I went with a song from a band that I actually like, but this song just grates on me. So I hated it the moment I heard it, and I hate it to this day, and that's We Built This City by Starship. It was actually a really popular song, like it rocketed up the charts and all this, and I just really, really hate that song. It's just grating on me. Like, they have so many like great earlier songs. Somebody to Love is just fantastic song, and We Built This City just seems, I don't know what it is about that song. Maybe it's just the cheesiness of it, or I don't know, but I just hate it.
It's funny that you mentioned Somebody to Love. Speaking of Berlin from the last challenge, when I saw them in Napa, they covered Somebody to Love at the show. And they did this stellar version of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's another podcast. Good. We can do a whole podcast on cover songs.
That's true.
Yeah.
Outstanding cover songs.
Outstanding cover songs,
There's a bunch of people that just do them decent, but...
Agent Orange does a good Somebody to Love.
Do they really?
They do.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
It's on the, I believe, Living in Darkness album.
Huh.
On one version. There's different versions of that
album. Oh,
album.
that's right. That's one. There's like 3 or 4 different flavors of that album.
Yeah, and on one of the one that I had on cassette back in the day has it on there, and then I think it's on one of the CD versions that I have, but I don't remember which.
Okay, because I know I have an Agent Orange album on CD. I thought I had Living in Darkness. That's the one with the hits on it, right? No Such Thing. And
yeah, and Bloodstains.
Yeah. So I've got that one, but I don't think my copy has Somebody to Love on it.
Yeah.
I wonder if they lost a lawsuit over that song, or didn't want to pay for the royalties again to put it on the record on a later pressing, maybe.
I'm sure you could find it on the YouTubes.
That's true. You can probably find it on there. I know Agent Orange is, if you follow their Facebook page, apparently there's a band in, I think it's Australia, maybe New Zealand, also titled Agent Orange right now.
Oh, wow.
And like once every 2 or 3 months, the singer for the California-based Agent Orange will fire off a nastygram to them saying, guys, you really need to change your name. Come on, seriously now. And they won't, either they're not responding to him or they're just giving him snarky comments back like, no, we're just going to keep the name, sorry. And he keeps emailing them, and then he keeps posting on the Agent Orange Facebook page here for the California band, saying, I tried again, they still won't listen, and people getting all fired up over that. And
wow, that's funny.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know why a band would insist on keeping that name. I think they might even be an Agent Orange tribute band or something. The one in Australia.
And they actually named themselves Agent Orange?
Yeah, they named themselves, and they won't change it.
That's stupid.
It is. It's really stupid. So I went with the opposite of what you did for this one. I went with, instead of a band I love and a song that I hate, the original version of this song I love, but the band I did not like for the longest time, this band that covered it. So the song is called Head On. It was originally done by the Jesus and Mary Chain, and I love their version of the song. I adore it. My band has covered it live a couple of times. I've played the crap out of that. That's album Automatic. It's on. It's so good. But I went through a long period where I just could not stand the Pixies. It was only within the last 2 years that I've started to come around to the Pixies and okay, I like the Pixies now. I think I get it now, and I can appreciate their records more. But I could not stand them for the longest time. And they put out a cover of Head On that was just absolutely terrible. I remember the video for it showing up on 120 Minutes regularly, and I'd watch it and just, oh dear God, why are they ruining this amazing pop song? And I just could not do it. And then I think what finally helped turn me around to the Pixies was two things. One, they started putting out those songs that were different than the typical Pixie sound, like the Wave of Mutilation UK mix that was on the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack, and Here Comes Your Man, and the stuff that was way mellower and straightforward compared to the bigger, noisier guitar stuff that they're mostly known for. And I love big, noisy guitar bands. Something about the Pixies things never worked for me. But so they started putting out these poppier songs. And then in 1999 or so, the Pixies tribute album came out, Where's My Mind? And that's got mostly kind of pop and indie emo bands covering Pixie songs, and they're doing them all in a really melodic, poppy way. It's like Weezer is on there, and the Get Up Kids, and Eve Six, and a lot of bands that aren't quite as distorted and feedback guitar-y sounding. Those kind of bridged the gap for me and made me think, okay, maybe I do like the Pixies songs, and it was just something about the initial delivery and how I heard them. It was not grabbing me, and but I still cannot stand their cover of Head On. So that remains as my day 7 challenge.
Fair enough.
All right, day 8 was a song you sang the wrong lyrics to for ages.
Okay, insert any Elton John song here, but no, I'm actually going to go with Manfred Mann's Blinded by the Light. I used to think it was saying wrapped up like a douche.
I think everybody thought it was saying that.
Or revved up like a douche.
I think everybody thought he was saying that too.
Yeah, it's actually revved up like a deuce. Although the very first part of the song, they say wrapped up like a noose, and then every other time for 15 times in the song, they say revved up like a deuce. Another runner in the night. So none of it makes any sense. I guess my wrong lyrics are just as right as their right lyrics, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah.
That's interesting that they say it differently the first time in the song and then correct the rest of the times. I wonder if that was intentional or if that was a case of analog tape recording. And I was like, well, we got it wrong the first time, but he sang it in the right pitch and everything. And so we're going to leave it there because bouncing that take, to another track and then dubbing it back would have been too much hassle or something. And
could be.
Because that was recorded back when everything was recorded on 2-inch tape. And
right.
There are a lot of songs that have really interesting stories to them. It's like, why does a song have that weird quality in it here? Why does he say this or that and whatever? And a decent chunk of them, the reasoning behind it isn't, oh, that was a big artistic thing we did. The reasoning often is, well, we screwed up how we recorded something else, and that was the only way to make it sound correct.
Yeah.
Like the, what's the Beatles song? Strawberry Fields Forever, where it does the slow down thing twice in the song. That was because they had the 3 different versions of the song recorded at different speeds, and they wanted to use parts of all 3 of them together, so they just started one tape deck and then started the second tape deck and kind of blended it in, and then started deck number 3 and went from there. So anyway, I wonder if the Manfred Mann song was for a similar...
Could be. They just screwed up the first one and just kept going.
That could be. So for the wrong lyric song, I went with the Verve Pipe and their song The Freshman. There's a line in the song where apparently he says, and she, a punk who rarely ever took advice. But he says it about 10 times faster than that. And for the longest time, my roommate and I thought it was Gina Puncarelli never took advice. And we just had this long-running joke that
Gina Puncarelli
must have been like one of Fonzie's girlfriends or something. That just sounded like he would have gone from Pinky Tuscadero to Gina Puncarelli.
Right.
And,
no, absolutely.
It made total sense.
As punk started getting popular, yeah. Well, it's later, but yeah. Backtracking just a second to the song Milwaukee that we were talking about earlier with Amy Mann and Ted Leo.
Yes.
That song is about the statue of Arthur Fonzarelli in downtown Milwaukee.
Awesome.
So,
and it goes full
two
circle.
Fonz references, and we're only
not even a third of the way through.
Awesome.
There's a really good book, as far as really good books go on this topic. If you're into misheard lyrics, there's the book called "Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy," and it's all
good title.
Famous lyrics that are incorrectly heard for years and years. And
right.
Backtracking to a minute ago when you were talking about you could have gone with any number of Elton John songs.
Yes.
Every time people talk about misheard lyrics and Elton John, the first thing that pops into my head is that scene in the TV show Friends when Phoebe is like, "Oh, I really like that song Elton John wrote for the guy on Who's the Boss. You know, the one where he goes, 'Hold me close, young Tony Danza,'" and everyone starts cracking up.
Yeah.
Okay, day 9 was a song by a favorite artist.
All right. Well, one of my favorites of all time. I've got a million favorites, but thinking back to high school and everything, the Descendants were huge and still are. We saw them together last summer.
That was amazing.
Very good show. So I picked my favorite Descendant song of all time, which off the Milo Goes to College album, Hope.
Nice.
Great song. Just great lyrics. Just such a good, like, poppy punk song before poppy punk existed, really.
Well, yeah, because poppy punk didn't exist before the Descendants. They're kind of where a lot of it started.
Yeah.
And really, is there a bad lyrical song from the Descendants? They're all pretty well structured and put together.
All songs about girls, food, or farting.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Pretty much. I went with a punk band for this one as well. I might have been inspired by your choice on this and then went with it later. I don't remember for sure. It said by a favorite artist. And although I listen to lots and lots of different types of music, I really only have... my two definitive favorites of all time are Depeche Mode and David Bowie. And then I've got sort of the second tier of bands that are right behind them. There's a couple of bands that are like in my top 10 all time. And 7 Seconds is definitely one of my top 10 favorite bands.
Nice. Ever.
And so I went with their song Satyagraha off of the album Soul Force Revolution. Just a great 3-minute, big melodic pop punk song. So 7 Seconds played this live at their shows. I've played it live with my band a couple of times. I actually played this at a show once in Berkeley. Jonah from Far played the song live a few times too. So Jonah played a show in Berkeley and there was an open mic before the show. So just him and a guitar. At some point in the show, I actually got up and we played Satyagraha together. Just him singing it and me playing the guitar part to it, like acoustic style in front of a handful of kids at this Berkeley college dorm, kind of at the family room community area downstairs in their dorm. And I was lucky enough to get a recording of that show and have that as one of my favorite moments in my pitiful little rock career that I've had of playing shows here and there. It's like, well, I got to play one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite bands with one of my favorite songwriters, Jonah in Berkeley. And
awesome.
That was a good time. So I went with that one for number 9. All right, number 10, a band you wish were still together.
All right, so for this one, I kind of made a self-imposed rule just for me that it has to be a band that can get back together. So no, bands with deceased members, like, no Beastie Boys, no Clash, no Beatles. So I went with a local Sacramento band. It was the first band I ever saw when I moved to Sacramento. Like, it was actually a couple months after I moved here. Concert in the Park, Groovy Ghoulies.
Nice.
So I went with Groovy Ghoulies, Island of Pogo Pogo. Just always liked that song of theirs. Saw them about 1 million times, I think, before they finally broke up. But it would be awesome if they were still together, because they're just super fun, family friendly, good time pop punk.
They are a lot of fun to watch live, and they are deeply missed by people, I think, these days.
Yes.
Fortunately, Kepi still plays all the time, and he does lots of ghoulie stuff. He'll do his acoustic shows, and he'll still play The Beast with Five Hands and some of the hits.
Right.
But yeah, Ghoulies Live were always a lot of fun, and I did the same thing you did for this challenge. I said it has to be a band that theoretically could get back together. All the members are alive. They're all physically capable of playing music in some way. I went with Talking Heads and the song Girlfriend is Better, which is just one of my favorite Talking Heads songs. Every time I hear them now, I love their records, and it just makes me physically ill that most of the band wants to do Talking Head shows, and Dave Byrne is just, not only is he like, no, I don't want to do it, but he just seems very adamant and almost offended when people bring up, do you ever want to play Talking Head songs again? And
yes, so sad.
Yeah, every time I've ever heard of anyone interviewing him or talking to him, even in like hallway conversations, I'll hear about, so-and-so ran into David Byrne last week, and I'll say, I mentioned, so Tina and Chris are going to accept such and such award for the Talking Heads. Any chance you're going to go to and maybe play a song or whatever? And it's not just that he says no, it's that he says no with such authority and offense in his voice. You'd think someone asked him if he wants to go beat up little kids on the street or something. That's just
he's
crazy.
So
against it, yeah. And that he's so against it that's why I have not gone to see Dave Byrne live as a solo artist, because I figured for sure there's no way he plays Talking Head songs in his set if he's that against playing with those guys again.
Oh, but he does.
He's drawn a line in the sand. Exactly. I thought for sure, he's drew a line in the sand. There's no way he does that. It's all going to be solo stuff and newer.
Yeah.
And now I come to find out after the fact, he does all kinds of Talking Head songs in his live show.
I saw him with St. Vincent and on their tour, and they did a few.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
That drives me nuts.
All right, next time.
Yeah. So now I have to go see Dave Byrne live, and that's just going to make me even sadder that the Talking Heads are not together.
Yeah.
All right, day 11, a song you are embarrassed to like.
Yeah, okay. I narrowed this down to 2. The runner-up that I didn't pick was from former Spice Girl Emma, the song Free Me. Don't know why. Catchy little tune. But I picked a song from the 90s. I think a lot of people liked it at the time, but I don't know why. Snow's Informer.
Yep, everybody liked that song. Nobody knew what he said, but everyone liked that song.
Yeah. So I'm a little embarrassed to actually have that CD still.
I don't know if I have that song in my collection anywhere. I might have it on a mixtape somewhere. It was a good pop song. It had the makings of a one-hit wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you're not known for it being a well-done, catchy song with great imagery in the lyrics. You're known for it being the song where he just kind of talks really, really fast and I lick you boom boom down. And that thing.
Exactly.
Everyone I think pretty much knew he was going to be up and gone when his 15 minutes were done.
Yep.
So I went with Nickelback for this one. I know their song Photographs. I'm with you and most of the rest of the population, it seems. I'm anti-Nickelback in general. They do nothing for me. They're just a mediocre Canadian butt rock band. I don't seek out their music ever, but as a fellow songwriter, damn, this is a well put together song. I have to give credit where credit is due. The lyrics paint a great story of just some guy looking back on his life. It's well put together, chord structure wise, and there's nothing I would change about that song. I have to give it up like that. Photographs is well done. They get points for that one. Everything else they've ever done, I don't think I ever want to deal with it. But that one song, it's like, God, I wish I wrote that song.
So then they actually have 2 songs, because I think all of their other songs are really one song, just repackaged. But that one sounds like it's probably different. I don't know.
I think it is. My opinion is it's different, and I think this song is on the one album that they had Mutt Lange produce, which would shed a little bit of light on why the song is better than some of their other material, because Mutt Lange is just, the lifelong genius that can turn anything into a huge smash hit, and he knows how to make not just records that sell platinum, but records that sell 9, 10, 11, 15 million copies.
Yeah.
Man, I would like to have his career. All right, where are we at here?
Day 12.
Day 12. Song that has to be played loud.
Yeah, I on this one I just tried to stay away from the obvious. So I tried not to pick, any number of, hard rock or metal songs, of which there are a lot of them that I like. AC/DC, Metallica, old Black Sabbath, so many songs, but those you expect to play loud, they're just too obvious. So right. I try to think of a song that's not an obvious choice, but that whenever I hear it, I just have to crank it up as loud as it'll go, take it to 11. And so I went with the Smiths' How Soon Is Now.
Nice.
Yeah, so whenever I hear that song, I just have to crank it all the way up. So it's usually on a random playlist on my iPod, and so I'll hear it in the car, and up it goes.
I did a similar thing. I kind of eliminated all the loud hard rock metal songs. So I went with This Year by the Mountain Goats, which is pretty much an acoustic folk band. A lot of the Mountain Goats shows are actually one guy with a guitar, and that's it. And they have a full band variation that tours and such too, but they're not sonically a big loud band like Hatebreed or Slayer or anything like that. So this song is on an album of theirs called The Sunset Tree, and the whole record is just, I crank the whole thing up and sing along to every note. It's just such a really, really well done, put together, kind of upbeat folk pop record. The song This Year in particular, I remember playing that really, really loudly on the way home from my grandfather's memorial the day that he passed away. And I thought, wow, if this song can make me feel better today, there's something definitely magical about this song. It works for pretty much any occasion.
Awesome.
All right, day 13 was a song that you air guitar to every time you hear it.
Okay, so this one I did have to go with the rock.
Oh, yeah.
Rock and roll. I mean, air guitar, to me, it's got to be AC/DC, Back in Black. Got to air guitar right from the opening chords, do the duck walk, the whole 9 yards. And that album could be part of another podcast maybe someday, best comeback albums. That's the one that came out just actually months after, it wasn't even a full year after Bon Scott died. They came out with that album as kind of a tribute to him. I mean, so many people were wondering what's going to happen, because it came on the heels of Highway to Hell, which was to that time, their biggest selling album, and the one that kind of made them a kind of a super group. I mean, they were popular before that, but they were huge when Highway to Hell came out, and then Bon Scott dies.
Right.
And they're like, well, now what? And not even a year later, they come out with Back in Black with a new singer and just obliterated any, thoughts of, well, they're done now. And
if I'm not mistaken, Mutt Lange produced that record too.
I believe he did. I know he did Highway to Hell. I believe he did Back in Black also.
And isn't that Back in Black is something like one of the top 10 biggest selling albums ever, if I'm not mistaken.
It probably is,
really high up there. It's like maybe 12 or 13, but it's sold some ridiculous amount of copies, 30, 35 million copies now or something.
So that if we ever do that, best comeback albums, I'm putting that in right now for number 1.
So for my air guitar song, I went with Metallica, Master of Puppets. It's not the first, but it's one of the earlier loud metal hard rock songs that I ever learned how to play on guitar. I remember actually air guitaring to this song at a Metallica show when they played in Oakland with Guns N' Roses and Body Count.
Yeah, I think you could pretty much air guitar to almost any Metallica song.
Yeah, pretty much. They're one of those bands. That'd be an award to win. Most air guitarable band.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need an award show like, remember when MTV used to have their movie award show? Do they still have that?
I don't know.
I don't know. When they first did it, it was a big deal. Yeah. It was a big deal when they first came out with it, because they had cool awards that were not done at the Oscars. They had things like Best Kiss and Best Fight Scene and stuff like that. And I thought, now we need to have that kind of award show for music, like most air guitarable song of the year. And
totally.
So rather than just, best song or whatever, you need to have, things of different kind of off the wall categories. Like you can't really do best fight scene song, but we could come up with a second set of categories and give awards for those.
Totally doable. Yeah.
Day 14, the first song you ever bought.
I didn't really buy singles. I bought albums. So I'm going to go with a song that made me buy my first album. And there's a little bit of a brain freeze in that because they were literally a week apart. The first album I ever bought and the second album I ever bought. And I'm pretty sure the first one was Boston, their first album, just self-titled Boston. And the second one was Kiss Destroyer. It might have been the other way around, but I think Boston was first. And so the song More Than a Feeling was the one that got me hooked on that. My buddy's older brother had the album and would play that song all the time. And I was like, this is awesome. And so I bought it.
You put so much buildup into that answer. You did the suspense thing for like a minute and a half.
And
okay, so I think it was one of these two songs.
And then it's Boston.
I bought albums. Yeah, exactly. And but then you mentioned Kiss a couple of times. I'm like, oh my God, dude, it's going to be so awesome if his first record ever was Destroyer. I'm like, yeah, Detroit Rock City is your answer to this.
There
now
is
Boston More Than a Feeling, and I feel
there is a chance that it actually was Kiss, though. I can't remember which one I bought first, but because they were so close together. So actually, we'll go with 1B. Detroit Rock City.
No, 1A is Detroit Rock City and 1B is Boston.
All right. I do like Destroyer better, and I do like Detroit Rock City better, but I think I bought Boston first.
I think part of why I would favor Kiss as the answer over Boston is just every time I hear of the band Boston these days, I think of the new lead singer they have now that works at a hardware store or something like that when he's not on tour with the band. And that just makes me sad that the regular singer everyone is familiar with is not singing in Boston anymore.
Right.
He passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like, really, Boston? You can't even pay your new singer enough money to where you can quit working at Home Depot?
Yeah.
Come on.
That is sad.
Yep. And after I give you all of that grief over Boston, now I have to say my answer. So the first song I ever bought was Daryl Hall and John Oates' I Can't Go For That No Can Do.
All right.
I like how there was dead silence in between when I said that.
No, actually, no, that's not so bad. And no, finish your thing, and then I'll have a little Daryl Hall anecdote when you're done.
I still have the 45, so I never got rid of it. It's still in the record collection in the office. I think I bought it for $1.35 or something on 7-inch at. There used to be a shop in Vacaville called the Guitar Players Music Shop, and they sold guitars and records and various things. And that's actually where I took guitar lessons.
Hall & Oates had some good songs. I mean, that's not...
They have some great songs.
You can't be embarrassed about that. You shouldn't...
They're kind of the 80s version of Bread, the band you mentioned earlier. It's like, if you thought about them just offhand, you'd be like, oh, kind of cheesy 70s or cheesy 80s pop stuff. But if you really looked at their catalog and were able to filter through the default kind of cheese factor that people, I think, associate with some of those bands, for the genre they were in and what they were trying to do, they were wildly successful at it.
So my Daryl Hall anecdote. Recently, my job changed a little bit, and so now I'm able to work from home 3 days a week. The other day, I wanted to have some music on in the background, and rather than just putting on like Spotify or whatever, I put on Palladia, which is a really good music channel. And
I know that channel.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Oh, I think I know where your anecdote's going. But go ahead.
There's a show on there that I didn't know existed called Live at Daryl's House.
Oh, greatest show ever.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it kind of screwed me up because I had to take a longer break than I should have to watch that. But I made up for it later in the evening. But yeah, I was like, man, this is really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. So for those that don't know, the show is people go to Daryl Hall's house. Like famous musicians go there. They had like, I think they had Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and Matt Nathanson was in one. Just all kinds of different people have gone. The Plain White Tees are in one. So they go to his house and they play music with Daryl Hall's band, and they do like 2 or 3 of their own songs, and then 2 or 3 Daryl Hall or Hall & Oates covers. And then the second half of the show is they all sit around and eat dinner together, and there's some sort of gourmet chef from a local restaurant that hangs out and shows them how to make whatever the dish is that they're having for dinner that night. My favorite ones are when the bands actually do some of the cooking. If you ever see the episode with the Goo Goo Dolls, it's great because the last half of it is Johnny Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls making hot wings. Not them standing there watching the chef make hot wings. Johnny Resnick is actually over the top of the fryer talking about, you got to do the hot wings until they float to the top of the grease. And then here's my sauce, and here's how I put the sauce on them. And like,
awesome.
Totally chefing out over hot wings on the show. It's the most surreal thing ever watching Daryl Hall and Johnny Resnick making hot wings in this guy's backyard.
I'm a fan. I did not know that show existed, but Now that I do, I'm going to be watching more of it.
Oh yeah, that gets TiVo'd regularly at my house.
Sweet.
Love that show.
Where are we? Day 15, I believe.
Right, halfway.
All right, here we go.
All right, day 15, favorite solo or instrumental song?
Yeah, so this one I had to go back again to childhood. This is a song, actually the entire album, but particularly the song that I learned how to play D&D to.
Again with the big mysterious buildup.
Yeah, so I would pour through the original blue box basic D&D rulebook and listen to the album Hemispheres by Rush and the song La Via Strangiato, which is just this epic instrumental song. I forget how long the album version is, but it's long.
Oh, probably a day and a half.
Yeah, but the version that I linked to on the Facebook challenge is a live version from 1978.
So that one's like 4.5 days long, right?
Yeah, it goes on for days. I think it's like 17 or 18 minutes long, something like that. But it's awesome. It is just an epic. It's got everything. It's got drum solos, bass solo, guitar solo. It's got every kind of solo you could have, and it's just awesome.
I hate Rush. Sorry, that's my anecdote for you on that song.
Well, see, the good news is do you just hate everything about him? Do you hate like Geddy Lee's voice or what?
His voice drives me nuts.
This is instrumental.
That's a big factor. Okay,
instrumental.
So maybe I should go back and listen to this one song then, because that is part of it, and part of it is just. While I fully agree that they're technically very proficient musicians at what they do, I've just never been attracted to the songs that they make all that much. It's kind of just been, I don't know, I've wanted more song in their songs and less of we're going to put 19 parts in the song just because we can. They do a lot. I think there's a way to build a 9-minute song with lots of different sections and have it work. Metallica Master of Puppets, which is one of my earlier picks. That song shifts gears 3 or 4 times, and the Rush stuff has just never done it for me. I will, however, say that I really enjoyed I read Neil's book, Ghost Rider, Travels on the Healing Road, and I loved reading that book. That was really fun to read and just a nice insight into the non-band stuff that had happened to him at that point in his life, and it was really good. Did you read that?
I have not read it, no.
It's worth checking out. It's he wrote it after... So he had a full-grown adult daughter, and I think she was just on her way off to college. And either on the way to college or shortly after she got there, she was killed in a car accident, I think. And then his wife, over the next year, got really, really just more and more depressed as a result of my daughter is now gone, and she ended up developing cancer, I think, and passing away too. And so in the course of a year, Neil went from, I'm the drummer in this amazing rock band and life is great and everything's rad, to my wife and daughter are dead. What the hell am I going to do? And so he sort of, he called the band and said, consider me retired, packed up a bunch of supplies into the 2 saddlebags on either side of his motorcycle, and then just took off on a cross-country drive. And he went from Canada all the way down to Mexico, so I guess cross-continent drive, rather. Just went everywhere over the course of many, many days, and wrote down a journal the whole time about, like, sometimes the journal entries were just day-to-day things like, I drove 200 miles today. And he's also an avid bird watcher. So some of the entries are things like, I drove 200 miles and then I saw a red-breasted tail feather, blah, blah, blah thing. And but then he'd also talk about, I miss my wife and I miss my daughter and whatever. And I won't spoil it, but the book actually ends with a more of an uplifting message than that. But yeah, it's worth checking out.
All right, cool.
So for my favorite instrumental, I went with another cover. I went with Stanley Jordan's version of the Beatles song Eleanor Rigby. The original version of Eleanor Rigby is not an instrumental, but Stanley Jordan is a jazz guitar player who does things kind of differently. He actually does the finger tapping thing, kind of like Eddie Van Halen does. Right. Except he taps with both hands over the top of the neck of the guitar, and that's all he does is he just taps. But he can tap different patterns with his right hand than his left hand. So he'll have one hand tap a bass line and the other hand will tap more of a higher melody part. So it's just him on one guitar, but it sounds like 2 or 3 different instruments going at one time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he does a version of Eleanor Rigby that way, where you'd swear it's 3 or 4 guitars going at once and it's just him. And so I actually, I think the link I gave on Facebook for this one was a link to a live video where you could actually see him doing the tapping thing on the song. It's really, really great.
Awesome.